Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy K. Abdulmaid of the Civic Engagement Podcast. Tonight, I want to bring you the final recap of the Oakland special election. So, I want to bring you the final recap of the Oakland special election. And it is important for me to wrap this up because we had a contentious election from both sides. Barbara Lee and Lauren Taylor. And both sides wants a great campaign. But Barbara Lee ended up being victorious. And it's a big victory. It's a big victory because Barbara Lee, believe it or not, in Oakland with all his historical legacy, is the first black woman to be elected mayor of Oakland. The first African American woman to be elected mayor of Oakland. But she followed a path that was blazed by the Honorable Von Dellums after illustrious congressional career, came home to be the hem of the city as a mayor. Now, people like, well, can we compare Barbara Lee with Von Dellums? Now, that's a fair comparison because they both came from Oakland, went to the United States Congress, served illustrious career, came back home at the end of their career and ran for mayor and won. So in that way you could compare them. But of course, Barbara Lee is not Von Dellums. So we don't know what Barbara Lee is going to do. We just wait and see. And so far, she has seemed to be going on the right path. She had a transition team that she had already put in place. And everything seems to be going just fine. Everything seems to be going just fine. So we'll see how she's going to govern this city. But we also have to make sure that the losing candidate embrace this victory as a learning lesson. And so oftentimes when people lose, they disappear because their egos are crushed or they're embarrassed or they don't want to become humble enough to work with the administration. I think in order for anybody to be a good leader, they also have to be a good follower. Let me say this again. In order for you to be a good leader, you also have to be a good follower. So, in that sense, whoever is planning to run for any position as a mayor need to be able to know how to be a follower. And you learn how to be a follower by participating even when you're not in charge. You learn how to be a follower by volunteering, even if not in charge. You learn how to be a follower by reaching across the aisle and congratulating somebody and offering to help even when you are not in charge. You offer your expertise to somebody or organization even when you're not in charge. That's how a good leader operates, by being a good follower, offering your expertise in whatever field that you think you could offer. It is not to sabotage. It is not to become a sore loser after you lost. And it's definitely not to undermine the victorious person. Because one thing about voters are not dumb. Like Kendrick Lamar said, the audience is not dumb. They pay close attention. They don't weigh in all the time, but they pay close attention. And they weigh in when it's time comes to go into the election. When they go into that ballot box, that's where they weigh in. And people remember. People remember what you say. And they remember how you make them feel. So when you're running a company, you have to know exactly that the people are paying attention. So words of encouragement to my friend Lauren: don't be discouraged. You're a young man, you're a great family man. You got a lot of stuff going on for you. But if you want to be in elected position, you have to find a way to get involved. Now, this is some free advice. Maybe you should occupy your time with trying to see if you could run for the school board. Just maybe. Maybe you should explore to see if you could be appointed to any of the commissions to occupy your time. Just maybe. Maybe you should go back to run for your old city council seat. Just maybe. But whatever you do not try to undermine the victory of Bible Lee. Because the more time you spend out of elected office, the less experience you gain. And the current members of the city council, they continue to get more experience. And those people also have ambition to run for mayor. And so that is my advice to you. Find a way you could get involved. And don't take the bait from some of your supporters asking you to undermine or trying to get you to undermine the administration of Bible Lee, because voters will see that and they will use that against you. So this is just free game words of advice to you. So as Bible begin to ascend, we'll see what she gonna bring. And she had got a lot of support from the current city council members. So that's good that she was able to reach across the aisle. There are a lot of challenges with the budget, public safety, the budget, infrastructure, economy, small business. It's a lot. And she definitely gonna hit the ground running and need to bring everybody together. So, congratulations, Bible Lee. You did it. We wish you nothing but success. Now, I'm going to pivot to the people that just think everything is about recall. The recall petition. So, like I've always stated, Policy disagreement is not a reason for recall. Policy disagreement is not a reason for recall. There are people that are going around, as soon as they have a policy disagreement, they start to fund and gather petition. Now we have seen a lot of successful recall election taking place all around California, specifically in the Bay Area. The only person that was able to survive and defeat the recall in recent years is Governor Gavin Newsom. He beat the recall petition twice, Governor Gavin Newsom. And one of the key reasons, because Republicans were trying to hold him accountable for COVID. But voters was like, look, he didn't do nothing. He didn't cause COVID. He just take actions to prevent more death in California. So that is not a reason for him to be recalled. So voters were able to see through that. So recall is a tool. It's not a weapon. So for those people that think that they can use the recall as a weapon, voters will see through that. So recall is a tool. It's not a weapon. And I understand what it is. When you have somebody that's corrupt in office and the voters have a way to remove that person from office, and that's what the recall process is. Somebody that is blatantly incompetent. Voters have a way to remove that person from office. Someone that is blatantly neglecting their official duty. Those are what the recall process is for. The recall is not because you disagree with somebody. If you so disagree, wait till the next election cycle and run a candidate that you agree with your policies. If you so disagree with somebody, run a candidate that agree with your policy, so you see if the general voters could agree with that policy. So that's where we at with all of this recall process, and it is totally getting out of hand. It's becoming very abusive, and hopefully the California legislature will begin to take a closer look, and so that they could streamline everything about the recall process and codify it in a code of civil procedure as to when the recall process should be initiated, the amount of time a person should be in office before they could get recalled, the amount of time it will take before an election. So those are streamlined. I believe a 2-year mark is a starting point. You have to be in office for 2 years before there should be any agenda to recall any elected official. I think a 2-year line is a way to draw. It's a big line. You have to be in office for 2 years before you could even recall someone. And if the person has been in office for 3 years, especially in a 4-year term, they got 1 year election, they should not have no recall when you have the last 2 years, if you have a year. So a window of opportunity, like no recall for the first 1 year, no recall for the last 1 year. I think that's a good line. No recall within the first 1 year, no recall within the last 1 year of your office, because that's basically just waste. And if you are so disagree with that person, wait till the general election. And they're doing the same thing now with Contra Costa County DA Diana Becton. Diana is a great district attorney. She's been there for 8 years now. She got into that office because she was appointed when there was a turmoil in that office. So she was brought in to steady the ship as a retired judge. She did such a good job, and they say, you should run for this office. And so she had won twice and won. So now people have a policy disagreement with her. Now they're trying to recall her. I think it is wrong. People that have an agenda should find their own candidate they should run in a general election. And if your candidate is so popular, people are good with their agenda, then maybe they will win in the election. But other than that, don't lose the election and then turn back and around and try to recall the person that you lose to. That's abuse. Okay? So we were watching. So don't lose an election and then turn around and try to fund a recall campaign. That's a sore loser who is trying to abuse the recall process. And so this is just the final recap of the Oakland special election. Congratulations to Barbara Lee. And it's a warning to all the folks that lost to be productive as trying to undermine our administration and trying to start a faint recall process. Because voters are very keen now that that's how some people are trying to use that. They're trying to weaponize the recall process just because they have a disagreement from a policy perspective with somebody that they lose to, and now they want to turn around and recall. Because the recall is basically telling you that you have to have 10% of the last people that voted in the election to sign a petition to qualify to put it on the ballot. So that threshold, something also that a lot of cities and counties and the California legislature need to look at. That threshold is very low. 10% is basically all the people that disagree with you or all the people that did not vote for you. So we want people to have a say. We want people to be able to hold their leaders accountable, because that's how democracy works. But we don't want people to get frustrated and then as soon as they disagree from a policy, now they want to recall their leaders. That is insanity. The best process is a general election. That's why there is a scheduled general election for every seat, elected office, all up and down the state. It could be a 2-year term, it could be a 4-year term, or it could be a 6-year term. For whatever the term is in that specific seat, there is a general election, and that's where you take your grievance. Wait till the next general scheduled election and run a candidate that you agree with, that agrees with you. But you don't lose in a general election and then turn around and try to recall the candidate that you lose, that beat you in the race, just because now you have a policy disagreement. So voters are aware of that. So I want to make sure that I bring this out light, because that's what civic engagement has always been about, breaking down complicated issues related to politics and guiding folks, telling them in a way that they could get involved. So simplifying complicated political process, simplifying complicated political terminology, demystifying the whole things, and giving to you at your platter so that you could understand it. So congratulations to Barbara Lee. Words of encouragement to Lauren Taylor, and no to the recall of the Contra Costa County DA Diana Becton, because she's an efficient district attorney that deserves to continue in a role as an elected DA. And if there's anybody that opposes her, they need to run as a candidate in the general scheduled election. So this is your boy Kev, the mind of the civic engagement process. Keep the faith. Don't let your heart be troubled. Peace.